I've even made the joke where I'll be out and I have my straight face, like, don't approach me. I'm not in a social mood. And like, I'm all friended up, don't even introduce yourself to me. I'm all friended up.
Please just hold your breath. Every door looks better when you keep it closed. Keep your head down and don't watch your step. No point in even trying now, just let it go. Maybe they will write the same for me. Maybe this was really just a dream. Don't wanna take that risk and try to see. A 9 to 5 will bring security, I'm sure, but I can guarantee you there's no way to live. Way to live. Promise there's no way to live. Way to live.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Prodigal Peas in a Pod.
Woo!
I'm Denise Acosta.
And I'm Brooke Ackerman.
And oh my gosh, you guys, can you believe it's 2026?
No.
No.
Nope,
No.
not possible.
That's insane. That we've been doing it this long.
I know.
Since May of last year.
Yay us.
And we're going strong, you guys. We're not, we have no intentions of stopping. So buckle up, Buttercup. We got a lot more coming this year. Speaking of this year, as we are diving into this year's conversations, today we're going to talk about our friendships in adulthood. So building and keeping authentic connections, when we should keep them, when maybe we should think about letting them go. What are the things that come to mind when we start making those decisions and things like that?
Makes me think of when you're a little kid and all you have to do is go up to another little kid and go, "You want to be my friend?" That's it. So simple. And why have we made it so complicated in adulthood? Because really, that's all that it takes. But in adulthood, we've made making a new friend really, really difficult.
You know what I was reading the other day? That it was, as kids, the thing that brings us together is that we have things in common. We like the same things. Mm-hmm. And then as adults, the thing that brings us closer together is that we dislike the same things.
I want to change that. Let's go back to how it was when we were little kids. Let's bond over the things we love, the things that light us up and bring us joy. I'm going to do that instead.
Okay. Let's do it.
So if you have listened to us at any point along this journey of podcasting, we have often talked about how God has designed us, the needs that every one of us has. We all have a need to feel known and seen and loved and valued. And being wired for connection is absolutely something that every one of us has. God designed us for connection with Him and with each other. And so this idea of having your people, being in community, having close connections with people, it's a God-designed thing in you. And so if there is something that feels like, why in adulthood am I longing for the kinds of friendships that I had when I was a little kid or when I was a teenager? Or if there's any sense of this isn't quite like it used to be, part of that is because we were wired for intimate connection with one another. And if you have that kind of connection with people, man, hang on to that, because that's not a guarantee. Even if you have those friendships now, I'm not trying to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it's not guaranteed that those kinds of connections will last. But the idea of why do we all have this longing for connection with other people is because it is part of our blueprint, is part of how God designed us, because He is in relationship. It's God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. He wants relationship with us. And so that's a reflection of our Heavenly Father in each of us.
So if we're going through seasons in life where we're like, no, we don't want to deal with anybody, we don't want to talk with anybody, because I definitely have those sometimes.
Yeah.
Just, friendly reminder, we were made to be in connection. You made the comment about thinking about your childhood friendships, and I actually went to a friend's birthday a few weeks ago for his 40th that I met in 6th grade.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah. And one of my besties right now, I've known her since middle school too. And so there's a handful of people that I've known for a very long time. And then there's friends that I have that I'm very close to that I haven't known for that long of a time. Maybe that's you, maybe it's not. Maybe you don't have somebody from that long ago, or maybe you do. But there's a lot of different reasons why some of those friendships still made it through all of our growing pains and changes and seasons of life. And then maybe some that just kind of fell off because life happens and we grow apart, or various different things can happen for why our circle looks the way it looks today. So if you've been around any bit of time, maybe this is your first episode, but there's this really great book that I really love. And I'm always recommending for everyone to check it out at the library and maybe download it on your Kindle, whatever you need to do, go to the bookstore. It's called The Bible.
Who wrote that, by the way? Kidding.
Oh, God. There's a lot of great stuff in there, right? A lot of things that we can relate to that maybe we didn't initially think of when we've first been handed the book. At least in my case, it just felt very overwhelming. It's a very large book and it's old stories. And what does that mean to me today? Anyway, as we're talking about friendship, there are a few examples that we have of friendship that are in the Bible. And not to get too in depth about them, but just to bring some up if you want to take some time and read through those on your own. But David and Jonathan together, they have a really good story. That loyalty was wow, because David is trying, he's basically fearful of his life. Jonathan's dad is trying to kill him, the current king, because David was next in line to be king. Yeah. And so your dad is trying to kill your best friend. I mean, that's got to be
That's a tricky situation to be in, for sure.
Yeah. And that friendship was held very strong. There was a lot of loyalty there. They looked after each other. They prayed for each other. Their faith was foundational there. But also Ruth and Naomi, maybe you've heard at least the names Ruth and Boaz, that little love story. Well, Naomi was Ruth's mother-in-law. And when her husband died, she had the choice to either go home and go back with her family and everything that she knew, or she could have gone with Naomi, which most probably wouldn't have. They would have gone home. But she chose to still spend a life with her mother-in-law, with her customs, with her beliefs that were not hers. And the life that came from that friendship was just awesome. So that's definitely a friendship worth reading about there. And then Jesus and his disciples. I mean, Jesus showed us examples of how we should be living throughout his entire time on here. So there's already gonna be a lot of things in there, but you have different personalities that you've chosen to be with you for every step of your ministry. And just getting 3 people in a room that get along with personalities can be challenging enough. And now we're looking at like 12 more, however many more to put in the same room. Obviously, people are going to have different personalities that might not always click. And so how do we handle all that? What does it look like to have friends with different personalities and to be a friend in those moments, and how to show up for each other when it's hard and when one of us is just having more difficult times than the other, needing the encouragement. So yeah, there's a lot that we can read in the Bible as just examples of what being a good friend is, examples of how to be a good friend, how to show up for each other, and the benefits of it, and just proof that we are meant to be in community. That's always something we were designed to be in. We are not meant to do this alone. Yeah. And when we read that verse in the Bible, that doesn't necessarily mean a romantic connection only. Like, that can be it too, sure, but that's not the only way that needs to be interpreted. Just being among each other.
Yes. Plus, there are just so many emotional and mental health benefits to having connections and friendships. And like you said, there are levels of friendship and connection. It doesn't have to be the one best friend. It doesn't have to be a romantic connection. We can have different kinds of connections with people, different levels of friendship, different circles, but there's reduced isolation. There's just so many emotional and mental health benefits. We can feel supported and encouraged. When we offer support and encouragement, it not only helps the other person, but it helps us too. So there's just all kinds of good things. Like Denise likes to say, it's the vitamins and the supplements to life is what friendship really is.
Yeah. And sometimes you're struggling and frustrated with something, and you're like, oh, it's just me. Like, nobody else feels that way. And then you find out, actually, no, somebody else feels the same way and gets frustrated about the same things. You walk each other through that, pray through it. So there's a lot of good benefits to having friends, guys.
Yeah, so it's so great. So why is it so hard in adulthood? Like, why is that such a tricky thing?
I know.
There's so many things that happen in adulthood that don't happen in childhood that contribute to the difficulty of making and maintaining friendships when we're adults.
Because we're so busy.
We are so busy. Seriously, though, it's ridiculous. I forget who it was. Somebody was trying to make plans with us back in, it was still summer. And we looked at our calendar and we were like, well, every weekend from now until January now was filled up for 3-4 months. All of our weekends were booked. Yeah. What in the world? And so it feels like you feel like you're being a jerk when you go, well, I don't really have an opening for you. Like, what in the, like, what? But it's true.
Yeah.
It's so different than childhood.
Like children involved too, then they have their sport.
Yes.
And you're probably coaching those very same sports. And it's probably more than one sport. And if you have more than one kid.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And then you want some time for like you and your spouse. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different things. I don't have any of those things. And yet I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Just from all the different ministry stuff that I do. So I'm also saying this, I'm also, because that's the excuse I'll give sometimes too. Like, oh my gosh, I've even made the joke where I'll be out sometimes and I have my straight face, like, don't approach me. I'm not in like a social mood and like, I'm all friended up, you know, don't even introduce yourself to me. I'm all friended up because I feel like I don't have the capacity to be a good friend to that person, that new person coming in. Right. And so there's a lot of different things that we think about. And then it's like, do our values align? Right. And then do we like the same things? Yeah. And
all of that matters, but it does all contribute and make it feel far more difficult.
Yeah. Or past hurt, right? Like betrayals. We're like, no, they're just going to do that to me again, or just whatever it is. Right. So yeah, there's definitely a ton of reasons. Yeah, for sure.
And there are things like, you're just in a different stage of life. There are so many of our friends who, when they were in the very young kid stage of life with their own children, it was hard to line up schedules because John and I don't have kids. And so our lives look very different. And our friends had to be very, very present to their very young children because infants and toddlers really need their parents. Yeah. And they require a lot of time, rightly so. Yeah. But that made it hard to line things up. And so the connection sort of ebb and flow, and that's okay. And that was an adjustment that we had to make, is just because we don't get to see each other as often as we would like, it doesn't mean the friendship is necessarily over. We had to kind of let there be some elasticity in the connections and still find time and find ways to hang out with our friends, even though our life stages weren't exactly the same.
I think also when you're transitioning in life, you're either in between jobs or you lost your job. And now you're poor, right? You got nothing else to. So then you're like, no, because they're going to want to go out to dinner and I don't have money for dinner, or they're going to want to do these things. And like, I can't go out and do those things. The reasons are endless why it's so difficult, you guys. I don't think we need to find them for you. I think you know them because you're probably saying them right now. But even then, I value my friendships. I went through a good period of my life where it felt like my friends were my family, and where I felt like my family, again, I felt that my family should have showed up a certain way and they didn't. And then my friends were the ones that came in and grabbed me and supported me. That became where my focus was then. So for me, friendships became my lifeline. So I wanted to make sure that I was a good friend, what that looked like, being intentional about it and all that. And so you have some that hang out all the way. I'm almost 40 now. So I've had some for a long time. I've had some that have come and gone. I've had some really close friends that I'm just not as close with anymore. And not because anything bad is happening, just life. We're doing different. I'm so busy doing what I'm doing. And so unless you're part of that circle, I'm probably not seeing you all the time. That happens too.
Yeah. And sometimes the way that friendship has looked, it might need a little bit of redefining. Just because a friendship doesn't look the way that it used to doesn't necessarily mean that it has to end. And then there are those times that friendships do end, and it doesn't, like you said, it's not because of anything terrible that occurred. It's just lives have gone in different directions. But if you are still trying to maintain contact with friends, allowing there to be some wiggle room in how much time you spend, the opportunities that you get to spend time together, it's okay that those things have to adjust and change from time to time.
And then there is also those friendships that we do have to let go because it's just not a healthy avenue for us. It's not a healthy relationship. We're trying to grow and become something better, or a better version of ourselves. And it's just the thing that's dragging you back or holding you back. So, we have to evaluate that too.
One of the things that was really helpful for me was when somebody pointed out to me that Jesus had circles of friends. And so if the Savior of the world has different kinds of connections to people, then it's okay for us to have different kinds of connections. So he had his inner circle. He had the three. He had Peter, James, and John. And then there was the 12. And then there were all kinds of other people who were still intimately connected to him. But when he really needed to gather up the people when things were going really, really tough, he had the three. And so
the PJs.
Oh my gosh. That just happened right here, ladies and gentlemen.
guys.
You are witnessing this right along with me. The PJs.
The PJs. I love that. I'm going to say that now.
Wow. Okay. Yes. So if you have your circles or your levels of friendship, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're excluding people. And if you are in a certain circle for someone else, it's just the nature of friendships. We do have our circles or our levels of friendship, and that doesn't mean that you're not important to somebody or that that person isn't important to you. It's just we have different kinds of connections with different people, and that's very much by design. Again, if the Savior of the world had those kinds of connections, it's really okay that we do too.
That is helpful because I felt that sometimes too, where different groups of people will bring out different parts of me. And so there's an aspect of me that gets brought up a lot louder significantly in this one group versus another group where another space of myself is going to show up a lot stronger. And so, yeah, I know I have struggled in the past about, does this mean that it's ingenuine? Like, is one actually my friends and the other one isn't? And so I would have a lot of mental gymnastics that I'd be doing in there, struggling with guilt, but at the same time, no, but I like them and they're my friends. So anyway, it is helpful to know that.
And people can move in and out of circles, and you can move in and out of other people's circles. And again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just there is sometimes an ebb and flow. There is a need for elasticity in friendship and connections.
I like that. A need for it, because there is. Sometimes we'll think that friendships need to look a certain way. I think you had already started talking about this. Some you're going to be very close with and intimate, and they're going to know all your fears and what keeps you up at night. And then you have some that, you just casually see sometimes, maybe coworkers. You get along well, you spend a lot of time with them, but they're still, maybe they just don't know your traumas, but they know a good amount. And then there's some that it's just more of acquaintances. So there's different levels to things, and I think it's helpful to know that that's okay.
Yeah, and it's all valuable.
Yeah.
We need those different kinds of connections.
Yeah.
And so if it's somebody that's a little more on the fringe, we still need those kinds of friends too. And it's okay if you're on the fringe of somebody else's circles. There's still value there.
One of my toxic traits
oh jeez
is I love hearing everyone's stories, right? Like, I want to know what keeps you up at night. I want to know your fears. I want to know your traumas. I want to know all of that. But the problem with that is that it's not a problem. It's not. It's great, because this is vulnerability is where you build strong relationships and foundations for things. But then if I'm already feeling like I'm capped out, now I'm like, oh, great, I know everything about you. And so now you want to connect and we're going to have this friendship. And then I'm like, oh, wait, oh, no, I don't have that. I don't have that space. And so then I'm like, no, Denise, you can't do that. That's not nice. That's not kind. And so that's one thing that I have to check myself on sometimes too, because I would love to be able to that capacity for everyone that I've met, but it's just not realistic. No. I can't actually give all of that to myself to every single person. I just can't. So yeah, on these topics of friendships, I wanted to mention that it's important to leave space for these friendships to evolve, especially the ones we've had for a very long time that have been with us through many seasons of life, hardships, highs, lows, whatever it is. Allow space for both sides or all parties to grow and evolve, and not just get stuck on how you used to be or how they used to be. Because we're all supposed to be growing. We're not supposed to remain the same till the end of time. And I remember I used to have this conversation with a girlfriend of mine when we were younger, like late teens, early 20s. It's like, well, you just keep changing and I've never changed. And at the time, I didn't really have the language for it, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm just trying to be better who I need to be as I'm growing. And so let's allow that space for each other to do that and not hold people back to certain things, because we are meant to grow. Yeah. And we can grow together.
Yeah, and change is difficult. And so if it's a friendship where you used to see each other every week and now you're not able to do that because of one reason or another, you can still find ways to connect. If the weekly hangout can't happen anymore, just find another way. phone call, text messages, check in. You can still have different ways of staying connected to each other, but allow for change, allow for growth. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the friendship has to end. You can find ways to maintain connection, even if it doesn't look the way that it used to.
Yeah. And we'll find things that we love about that friendship even more just by doing those things. I had a cousin who used to live here, and he had to move back to Mexico to go be with his family. This is somebody I used to talk to all the time and I would see all the time. He was like a brother to me. And so it was really hard when he left, and trying to find that time now that he's back. He's super busy and they work nights and I don't. And so when do you have that time to even pick up a phone call? So we've since now started to just send voice notes. And so if he's working through the night, he'll just send voice clips, and then I'll listen to it when I have time, and then I'll respond. And maybe it's not immediate, maybe it takes days. Just something that we're doing to maintain in contact. And so we can find little things. It doesn't need to be a weekly dinner anymore because life just changed and we can't do that. So we can still be good friends even in our changing of seasons. Making that decision to let go is hard. We're in January, and I know that a lot of us come with resolutions or words, or I'm going to go through my friends list and clear it out and remove some people that no longer serve me. And let's think about the wording we're using on that, you guys. Maybe that's a podcast for another day. And so it is healthy to evaluate who we are keeping around us, the influences that we have, right? Because the way we think is the way that we're going to live. So what we choose to spend time on, focusing on is going to affect that. And I bring this up because sometimes there are friends that you may need to separate from for a season or just for forever, or whatever that needs to look like. And I know that is very hard to do, to make that decision. I had to make that a few years ago with someone I was very close to for many, many years, with like a sister to me. And we had just gone through a lot during our friendship, and a lot of things that I, in retrospect, wasn't giving the attention that I should have. And I was just very quick to just forgive things and get over them. And it wasn't healthy for me being in that. And at the time I didn't really know. I was just like, no, I love this person so much. And no matter what hurt came of it, or how much I had to shift in just who I was in communicating, that expression, like you're walking on eggshells, it just became a lot. And it took a final event for me to just end up kind of calling it quits. And I remember I was just so angry the day that this had happened. And I was just like, I just need a few days to cool off from this, and then I'll have a conversation about it with them. I was going to the gym every day with a buddy of mine, and I was sharing what was going on. And I think it was that Thursday of the week. And 'cause I was fired up from that Monday. And he was like, hey, I noticed that you're stressing about this, and we keep talking about it, and you're trying to find time to cool down and have a conversation with them. Have they reached out to you at all in this entire time? And I was like, no. And they're like, yeah, they haven't apologized or anything. And I'm like, no. And they're like, you don't think maybe you don't need to have this conversation? And I was just like, oh man. And that just shifted a lot for me. And so now I'm reevaluating this whole friendship. Right now I'm looking at 10 plus years. It was a long, long time, you guys. And I'm at this point starting to be super intentional about my faith. I want to take it seriously. I'm seeing the change. I don't really have the language for it, but I know something's here, and I know this is where I need to be. And now this is happening, and it's a space in my life that's kind of pulling me back from this new thing that I'm trying to do. And it's like, oh, this new thing is very nice and all, but okay, you need to make time to also do this. And it's like, actually, no, that's really unhealthy. And I was really unhealthy when I was living that way. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm realizing all these things. And the more that time goes by, the more I'm noticing I'm actually in a lot of peace about this. I don't have the anxieties that I do going into that relationship every day for conversations. I'm no longer the phrasing you used earlier, but holding responsibility for their emotion, their well-being. There was things about their mental health that I understood. And so rather than the focus of let's help and figure that out or find someone to help you through that, it was just more like, oh, no, I get it. So now I feel bad. So let's do it this way. And that's not a healthy way to respond either. So all in all, to say that I had a clear picture of just how not healthy it was for me and for where God was taking me, that we needed some time apart. And that was hard because this is someone oh my gosh, every day, all day, really, really close. And so we went our separate ways. I still never heard from this day. And it sounds like, just because you can still see people on social media and stuff, and it sounds like things maybe are going really great for that person. So I'm hoping it was a positive thing and maybe it was helpful on both ends. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'll never know, but there are times when God does call us and we don't really maybe understand in that moment, but we might later on. In hindsight, I for sure see the different areas that it was holding me back, and not because they're a bad person, not because they meant to or they were intentionally trying to do this to me. Sometimes we're broken and we're bleeding on people too. Sometimes we do need to change it up.
Well, and we've said it a gazillion times in pretty much every episode, but when it comes to, do I maintain this friendship? How does this friendship need to change? Is this a friendship I need to let go of? Involve God in that conversation.
Yeah.
Because he cares about both you and the other party immensely, and he wants what's best for both of you. And so if you invite him into that conversation of, what do you intend in this relationship for me, for the other person? How do you want me to move or pull back? Or what is it that you have for me here, Lord? I ask him. He actually cares about all the details of every relationship that you have with every person that you're connected to. And so if it is something that feels like there's a transition, or even if it's a really good current relationship and you want to take the temperature of it and say, God, is there something else that you would have me do or say or change? Or how do you want me to maintain this friendship? He actually cares about all of those details. So involve him in those decisions.
Also, I want to add, in those conversations with God, it's never a cookie cutter like, yes, oh, that person is really bad for you. Because I allowed a lot of this in my life for a long time. Yeah. And when I say allow, I don't mean like I allowed that behavior from this person. Like there are things about me that needed to be healed and understood and identified in my patterns for why I was thinking the way I was thinking or behaving a certain way, allowing certain things. And so none of that could have happened. None of that understanding and growth that came from it, none of that could have happened if I had stayed in something like that. And so sometimes it's things that God's trying to tell us about us. And it's not necessarily the other person because they're just this villain in our story. Yeah. You know, there's stuff about us that we have to resolve, that we should be working on. And God wants to work on that with us. You know, he has like steps for us to guide us through that in those conversations. So definitely, I approve. Take it up with God.
So really what we're talking about is how do we keep relationships healthy? How do we maintain health, whether that's that the friendship needs to end or we need to pull back or we need to move toward that friendship. So all kinds of different things that we can do depending on the person, the relationship, of how to maintain health in the friendship. So communication is going to be key no matter what kind of relationship this is, whether it's family, friendship, romantic. And I know people are like, yeah, communication's key, but what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? Communicating expectations is really, really important. And often you don't know you have an expectation until it's not met. And so if that happens and you realize, oh, I didn't even know that was something I needed or wanted out of this connection with this person, have that conversation. Don't automatically assume that is that person's responsibility because you didn't even know that it existed. And so if they didn't meet that expectation, that's a conversation. That's not necessarily a place where we need to worry about whose fault is it or placing blame, but it is our own responsibility to communicate to others what we value and what we want from a connection. And so realizing that just because I want something from this friendship doesn't necessarily mean that's what somebody else wants too. And so having that conversation of what are you wanting from this friendship? And not like what do you want, but actual curiosity. If it's a friendship you've had for a long time, are the expectations that we've had, are they still the expectations? Is something changing here for you? Here's what I'm looking for in this connection. As open and as vulnerable as you can be, it is going to serve you well if this is a healthy relationship. If it's not a healthy relationship, then some of that examining and what do I expect and what am I wanting might need to take place just within you. And whether or not you can bring that to the other party, you have to determine that. But if it's not a healthy situation, then that might be one of those where you need to pull away or end it entirely. But being able to lay everything out on the table and discuss, what are you wanting? What am I wanting? How can we make both of those work where it's mutually beneficial? Always a good idea.
Yeah, we shouldn't be afraid of engaging in those conversations when we care about each other. If you're feeling some type of way already, then it's worth mentioning and having a conversation about, and not just avoiding it because those conversations are awkward.
Engaging in healthy ways of managing conflict, because you might bring up something and you're very well intentioned and thinking, okay, this is going to be a great conversation where we're both vulnerable and open, and the other person might take offense at something that maybe you didn't intend, or even if you didn't intend it, if that's how they heard it. So you also finding ways of how to kindly handle another person's heart. Ghosting, goodness gracious, can we just stop it? It is not kind and it is not healthy. If the relationship needs to end, communicate that to the person. Even if that feels like, well, isn't that going to be unkind? What's more unkind is just piecing out and that person never understanding why that occurred. It's not helpful. Please don't do it. Communicate in some form what it is that you want to see happen, even if it's, I need to take a step back from this relationship temporarily, forever. Communicate it. Ghosting somebody is not a healthy way of handling conflict.
Sometimes we don't know. We don't have the language for it. We just know that we need some space. And if you don't have the language for it right away, okay, when you get the language for it, let's just share something for where we're at.
Yeah.
Because, it's not kind if it's just out of nowhere, for sure.
And be willing to celebrate the good things in another person's life. Even if it's hard, even if it's something that you want and you don't get it and they get it. I know, again, personal experience. I get that. It's hard. But you will find that if you can get yourself to the place of recognizing the good thing in a friend's life, even if it's difficult for you, there will be good that comes from it. It is a way to maintain connection even when things are hard. It bonds you in ways that other things can't. So find ways to celebrate the good in another's life. And hopefully they're doing that for you too. It's mutual.
So one of the things that can be difficult about keeping things healthy is when we're holding on to guilt. Maybe you unintentionally did something to hurt their feelings and you did have a conversation about it and they said they forgive you, but you're still holding on to it. And so that's still getting in the way of when you want to be there for somebody. And that can show up in a couple different ways, but learning to let go of that and not let that be a focus, an obstacle, a hindrance into progressing in your friendship, especially if it's something that you did unintentionally. And then if it was intentional and now you've repented or whatever, okay, fine. But, we're human and we'll make mistakes. And if you were sorry and you apologize, and if they forgave you, then you're working towards something. I've found that some of my strongest connections are after some form of conflict, some disagreement. And once you've gotten through that resolution, oh man, that connection, that relationship is strong. And when something else bad comes along the way, that doesn't affect you guys anymore. You guys have gone through some storms already together and you're able to get through whatever this next thing is, coming out on top. Conflict is an opportunity
for sure,
to identify and name an issue that exists, that needs resolution, that needs some resolving, and then work through that. It doesn't just end at the conflict. Oh no, now it's uncomfortable and now let's avoid it. No, get through the awkwardness.
Yeah.
Get through it together, have that conversation, and it's not going to be awkward and uncomfortable anymore after that.
So we mentioned involving God in the conversations about what your friendships look like and what your needs are and what you need to bring to the table and what others should be bringing to the table for you. One of the things that you can ask him is, are the people that are currently in my life, are they ones that you still have for me? Because we had talked about how sometimes there are friendships that it's time for a change, whether that change is just an alteration or if the change is an end to the friendship. But involving God in that conversation and asking him things about the people who are currently in my life. What do you have for me here in the relationships that I have with the people who are current. Because again, the friendships are going to change. It's inevitable. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And so asking him, who are the people that you have placed? Because it might be like Denise was saying, I'm all friended up. Like, I don't need any more. Well, God might be actually bringing somebody in your life right now for a reason. And it's not necessarily that you have to maintain a lifelong friendship with them, but there are people who will come into your life for a time, and then that friendship might end or change, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But asking him, who are the people right now, whether they're current, like you already have an established relationship, or if it's somebody new, be curious about that. Ask him, hey, this new person keeps reaching out. This new person keeps popping up. Is this something that you want me to pursue? Is this for a time? What do you want this to look like? He cares immensely about you and the other person. So involve him in that conversation.
He's also very precise in who he puts in your life, too, for the ones that he wants you to keep. Being a good friend involves intentionality, right? Like the things that we want from a friend should also be the same things that we are exhibiting and doing for them, too. And sometimes it may just feel like just we're having a good time and this is who we're sharing some parts of life with. And then you get hit with something very awful in your life that just kind of shakes the way things are going. And you don't know how things are going to work out. And guess what? Those people that you've been in a friendship with, a real one, are stepping up and showing up and carrying you through that season. And if you hadn't spent time being intentional and pouring into each other, that may not have been something that would have come up at the time. Mm-hmm. God doesn't make mistakes. So check in with him. So let's think about the question, where might we need to lean in on some relationships, and when should we be reaching out to someone maybe we haven't seen a lot as often as we used to?
And if the reaching out is because you're feeling a lack of connection, I know that can feel very vulnerable and scary. But if you have reached out and you haven't gotten the kind of response you were hoping for, take a risk and reach out again, because the story that you might be writing for yourself is, well, I've reached out and this person doesn't seem interested. It might have just been bad timing for them. It might be something really simple of they felt all friended up for the moment and the desire for a relationship with you didn't end. It was just they had some different circumstances going on. And so I know being vulnerable and taking risks can feel really scary, but the reaching out, if you're the one in need, it's worth pursuing again. And if after 2 or 3 times of reaching out, you're still feeling like, oh, this person doesn't seem all that interested, then that might be one of those times to just lay everything out on the table, communicate that clearly, or again, ask God. He might say, yeah, now's not the time for that friendship. And it doesn't necessarily mean that anyone has done anything wrong, but this is why we keep saying involve God in the conversation, because he sees you clearly. He sees the other party clearly. He sees the relationship clearly. He will bring clarity for you while he is also taking care of your heart and the other person. He loves both of you immensely. So ask God, involve him in the conversation. It will always produce good things.
Yes. I was just thinking about when you are reaching out to someone and you're not really getting the desired response, and you're reaching out again, and it's very short and distant. You feel like you're talking to a wall. Then what, Brooke?
I was going to say, where are you going with that?
Then what?
Oh my gosh.
Do you just let it go, or do you lean into that?
You ask God. Seriously.
Yeah.
Because every person in every situation and every relationship, there's going to be a different answer. And so if it feels like I don't know what to do here, the one who has the best answer for you and the other party and that relationship is God. Ask him, because he will not steer you wrong. And sometimes it's letting God have access to that place of pain and the feeling of rejection. And I've reached out 3 times, God, and they haven't responded. Chances are he's going to want to talk to you about your heart more than he's going to want to talk to you about what the other person is doing or not doing. Because sometimes we need his fathering in our lives more than we need to know the answers to why is this happening in this friendship.
One of the friendships I have, one of my besties, we have currently very, very different lives. The stuff that I'm involved in with church and ministries and all this stuff is night and day difference to her life and family and just whatever she's getting involved in. We are still very close. I don't get to see her as much as I used to. I used to see her all the time. And I don't get to see her as often as I used to. And I just bring this up because we can still have these friendships even if we're not doing the same thing. You don't have to always be doing the same thing to have that friendship. To me, she still feels like home. I can be weeks doing what I'm doing, caught up or whatever, and then I just have a conversation with her, and it's, even though I'm catching up on everything that's happened since then, it just still feels like home. And so let's just not write off people or friendships just because they're no longer doing the same things we're doing or having the same goals. There's value to everyone that's in our lives.
So if you haven't picked up on it in this conversation, there are all kinds of different sorts of relationships. We have different kinds of connections with lots of different people, and that's very much by design. That is, it's encouraged. God did design us for connection with each other and with him, and every friendship that you have with somebody should not actually look the same as the next friendship that you have with someone, because they're different people. We need different kinds of connections, and so whatever that looks like, all the different kinds of relationships that you have, variety is the spice of life, and it actually really does help in the area of the different kinds of friendships that we have with people. And so it does take, Denise's favorite word, it does take intention. There's no blanket way to maintain all of the different friendships that we have, because different people require different things. We need different things from different people, but bottom line is God did design us for connection, and so find ways to stay connected to your people. When things start to change, still find ways to stay connected to each other, because there are benefits for us, there are benefits for the other person. So stay connected in whatever ways make the most sense for you at the time, and leave room for things to grow and change.
So for someone who has mentioned a few times on this episode, I'm all friended up. I'm also in this little season where I am obsessed with coffee and testimonies, is what I call it. So I have very much loved new people, or even people that are already in my circle and we just haven't had that conversation. Let's get together. I want to hear your story. Let's have some coffee and let's talk about it. And then also last year, I had some more challenging things happening in life, and where I felt like the rug got pulled out under me. And a newer friend used the actual language of, I want to be there for you in this season. Those were the exact words that she gave me. And I was like, wow, it'd be easier to expect that from a friend I've had for like 5 years, you know, like they've been with me through thick and thin and they want to be here for me through this. But somebody brand new that's coming into this mess and is like, I want to be here for you through this. I was just like, oh my gosh, that was just so touching.
And so if you're feeling like, well, I don't really know if I have my people, I don't know how to find my people, guess what? There's room in the pod. We will be your people.
Yeah.
So there's always room at the table. Come sit with us.
Come, gather, children.
So hopefully there was something helpful in this episode for you. We got to kind of just verbally process some of our own stuff with friendship in this episode, which is really sometimes more for us than it is for anybody who's listening or watching.
Yeah, I'm good with
so thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Prodigal Peas in a Pod, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Prodigal Peas in a Pod.
For more content, please be sure to like, follow, and share.
And you can email us at prodigalpeas@gmail.com.
For more information on Misfit of Creation, you can like and follow me on just about all social medias, to include TikTok. I also have a Facebook community group that you can join. I have an Etsy shop that has a lot of downloadable tools to help strengthen your walk with Christ. There is a Patreon account if you are looking to be a monthly supporter. And I also do an online prayer call once a month. So be sure to follow that to be updated on when the next date is.
You can find more information on my mental and emotional health coaching practice at blueprintheartandmind.com, where you can also access my blog and schedule a session with me. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So Denise, what's next?
Hey DJ, spin that track.
I get it now, I need to be myself, because a copycat can only do so well. In love with everything that makes me who who I am, don't need a backup plan. I hope they understand that I'm doing better today. I got me a mission, I got some fruition. You down to stay out the way. Can't seek validation from people who hating. I got my mentality straight. Shout out to God, I've been keeping the first. He been working and paving the way. And now I can guarantee you that's the way to live. Way to live. Promise that's the way to live. Way to live. Promise that's the way to live.
Who came up with ebbs and flows? What does that mean? What is an ebb?
Water ebbs and flows. So like when it's flowing, it's moving. But when the tide ebbs, it's when the tide goes out. It's less and more. It's ups and downs, ebbs and flows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ebbs and flows.